All right, welcome back to the Mid-Atlantic Real Estate Show. TJ Barker here once again. Really excited for today. We got Raymond Raffel. Did I say that right? Raffel?
It's actually
No,
Raffel, but
Raffel.
everybody says Raffel.
Yeah,
It's okay.
it's that Mid-Atlantic Maryland accent of mine. We take those long E's here. So
Yeah.
you're an agent out towards that DC market. You and I connected talking about Calvert County today. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a realtor, been in the industry for about 4 years, been in the real estate market for 10 plus years, and I do business in the Waldorf, Charles County area, Upper Marlboro as well. I originally was with, just made a switch to Compass right now. I got my DC license, going for my broker's license in Maryland, and I do a lot of business in the area.
All right. So you're going for your broker's license. Nice.
Yeah, I took the class actually earlier this year. I just missed the last two classes of the 400 that I need to wrap up.
So very good, very good. So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and just hop into today's topic.
Okay.
So one of the things we were kind of talking about before we went live is you really focus on listings and sellers, right? You do a lot of things. But that's really a niche, and that's a market that you really are invested in yourself and want to ensure that when you work with somebody, you're providing a level of professionalism that a lot of other people don't, right? So I would just start off by saying, like, one of the biggest things I know when I look at my house, right? Or if I get somebody who comes to me and want to get pre-approved, right? What's the first website I go to pull up a value?
Well, most people go to the big websites, the Zillows, the Redfins. That's where they go to look up value, typically.
And how does that work out for them in most cases?
Well, I would say, to be honest with you, I go there and I look at my house value, but it doesn't speak to the renovations that I've done, for instance. So I look at it, they value it at one price point, but I know I've done renovations for the past 4 years that I own my house, and that doesn't reflect it. So, and also it doesn't speak to comparable sales, the style of the home, similar square footages, just the details. It doesn't really point out that. And also, just because they look at a circumference or radius doesn't really speak to the neighborhood, because right across the street, a value of a property can be totally different than a property across the street. So a local agent that's more familiar with the neighborhood can actually speak to what's going on, especially, let's say, Washington, D.C., for instance. A block over can totally change the price point of a value. So you go to a website, they just circle, do a radius, and tell you this is how much your house is worth. Don't consider a larger lot, higher water, just high graded schools, nearby shopping and parks. A local agent that's more aware of the area can be able to tell you exactly what the difference is in pricing.
I love what you just said right there, a local agent, right? I think that's so important, especially as we become this more online driven society, right? We feel like anybody can key in, they say, go to Zillow, go to Redfin, punch in some information and be an expert, but that's not the case. You got to have your feet on the ground, right? That's who you want to work with. You know your market. We know I'm not located in your market. I'm about, 90 minutes north, right? I'm never going to know your market as well as you do.
Exactly. So, when we were first talking, I told you when I started, I would try to get business wherever it goes. Now I just narrow it down, because you interview with so many agents. I mean, sellers, as far as trying to list their property, you sell with so many buyers, tour so many properties, and you just get a feel for the market that's just totally different from somebody from the outskirts. So I put myself in that position. Let's say a buyer wants a house really far that I'm not familiar with. I'd rather refer it out to somebody locally there that can give them a better answer than just trying to wing it. Or at least I have to disclose it to the seller that, hey, I'm not super familiar with this neighborhood.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. So when your sellers come to you, when you meet with somebody and you're going on that listing appointment, right? And they come in and they sit down and they say, I think my house is worth X and I want to sell it for Y. Right? What do you do with that conversation? How do you really provide someone like a good quality idea of what the value of their home is?
Well, one thing I try to never do is just be outright a contrarian and disagree. It kind of puts off people. I agree with them. I understand. I explain to them, hey, I know your house is worth this. And what you actually do, you just give them the real as far as overpricing your home and really capitalizing on that first 14 days. That's the best time to get your home the most attraction. So if you overprice your home and it sits on the market too long, people start worrying about what's wrong with this property. So what you really want to do is gauge the right pricing. And the way you do that is comps. You just want to show them apples for apples what houses are selling for. It might be minus a bedroom here plus an outside garage there, but you want to show them this is what the market says your house is worth. At the end of the day, I don't dictate what your house is worth, nor do you. The buyers are the ones that are going to dictate pricing. So if they want to force my hand, I will tell them, hey, I'll take your business, but I believe this is the number, and I would actually try to recommend a time frame. If in 2 weeks we don't get what you're looking for, are you okay with coming to this number? And most of the time when they do sell right around my number, I just tell them, honestly, you really just wasted time. This could have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, and you think about it, especially if someone has making mortgage payments on that, right?
Exactly.
So they want that higher value. It sits on the market an extra, 2, 3, 4 months. If you're making $2,000 a month, that's an extra $8,000 out of your pocket right there.
Yeah, and if you're doing HOA, I had a client doing HOA payments of $500 a month,
Ooh.
and as soon as he got to that price point I recommended, we sold in a week.
Yep. Well, and again, that goes back to being a local expert, right?
Exactly.
It's somebody who's in this market. You're doing it every single day. Your team's doing it every day. You see what's actually selling. And I think that's a hard thing. I'm a homeowner myself, right? My home, we've been here for 15 years now, right? 15 years, 3 kids, God knows how many animals. I think my house is perfect. And, if you came in, I'd be like, Raymond, not taking less than $600,000 for it. And you'd look at it and be like, hey, man, it looks like you've been living in here for 15 years, right? With 3 kids.
Yeah.
It's not, it needs some updating.
Exactly.
On this, but is sometimes, but you can tell me and say, look, houses similar to this are selling for X, but if you do a little bit of this, houses are selling for Y.
Yeah, I think another mistake sometimes people make, like just going back to that example of knowing the area. One time I took a buyer to a home, the house didn't sell, and then I went there on a follow-up listing appointment and I could just see why it didn't sell, and just trying to tell the client, depersonalize it a little bit.
Right.
Take away that picture there, let it speak to the masses and not you. Just touch up painting, fixing up little things. You don't want to overspend. I think sometimes that's something that makes home buyers think their house is worth something. They want to sell it and they over renovate,
Right.
and then they can't get that value back. So sometimes not renovating at all, trying to be just cheap or just get really dark pictures, and you say, wow, why would you post your house for sale with that kind of imaging? So not getting professional pictures affects it. And also sometimes they over renovate, they fix things that you really didn't have to, and they can't recoup that value.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm dealing with that and having that discussion with my in-laws right now. It's just the 2 of them. They do not need it anymore. We're in the process of trying to get this on the market. I'm going to show them this when we're done here, because they're constantly like, we got to get the contractor in here to do this. We're going to do this. And I'm like, you're not getting a dollar for dollar value.
Exactly.
On this. You're not getting a dollar for dollar value. You have a recommended real estate agent who's an expert locally. He's telling you what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
Listen to that's why you hire an expert, right?
Exactly. You just want somebody that knows, for instance, when you walk, because as a local expert, you show houses all the time. So you know what buyers really like as far as just the finishing, which sometimes can be very cheap. Just a new coat of paint, fresh coat of paint can go a long way.
Yep.
Just changing the doorknobs, even your cabinet knobs. These are very inexpensive. Sometimes you either just do deep cleaning on your baseboards. Regular spring cleaning is what I recommend after I close a home. Always send my buyers information about make sure you clean your house, because you never know when you got to up and leave. You get a job somewhere, you got to make a move, but you haven't been keeping it up to date. So if you do regular spring cleaning and minor renovations when it's time to sell, you wouldn't feel like you've poured in so much money that you can't recoup out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't think a lot of people think about that, right? Just doing the basic maintenance, keeping everything up to date. It's going to save you a heck of a lot of money if in 15 years now you got to do everything.
Exactly.
Yep. So, all right. So let's talk about this market that you work in. We're going to say Charles County, but I know you kind of really it's that for me, it's kind of a Southern Maryland, DC style market
Exactly.
right there. But what really do you see driving home values out there? Like, what are buyers looking for?
Well, I would say stronger commuter locations is what people want, the DC lifestyle, but they don't want to be in the city. You know, a lot of government workers are in this area. It's right across the bridge. So just a stronger commuter location, that is starting to be a negative sometimes now with the heavy traffic. You know, going into the DC area, you got to keep that in mind. But if you want more bang for your buck, so for instance, 500,000 might only get you a condo in Washington DC or a really small townhouse. But you go to Waldorf now, you got acres of land, multiple bedrooms, and you can really have a good family experience. So just a growing community. When you think about Waldorf, you think about La Plata, White
I love La
Plains.
Plata.
Exactly. A lot of new constructions are being put up in Bryan's Road, White Plains. So it just gives you a lot of these developing areas where you know, okay, my house will be worth a lot more in the future. A healthier, balanced market is another thing, you know. The Charles County experience is not like fanatic bidding wars. It just gives you, if a buyer really likes the house, they're going to pay for it because it's worth it. You know, homes are taking longer to sell than last year, but that's almost everywhere just because of the interest rates and everything. But I would think just to wrap it up, I think the new construction opportunities, the proximity to Washington, D.C., you're able to go there, let's say the National Harbor, you're able to get these good experiences. And I would say the rivers all around, so you get that waterfront opportunity and experience as well, but without actually living in a city.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, yeah, I said I kind of interrupted you there, but I'm a huge fan of La Plata. Don't get there often, but we used to do an annual event down there, and it was something I always looked forward to. And it's exactly what you said. It was just, I don't know, chill, right? Is that the
Yes,
best word to put
exactly.
it? Like,
Exactly.
it's chill, but you also know you're 90 minutes from Baltimore. You're, what, 45 minutes from DC?
And
And
also, Virginia is right across the bridge.
yeah,
So everything is right there.
yeah, so really, really cool area, cool area. So I want to kind of throw you for a little bit of a curve here. One of the things you just mentioned was inventory and things taking a little bit longer to sell right here. Now, would you kind of say that market, your market, is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Is it still kind of more balanced than it has been in a while?
I would say it's trending towards buyers,
Okay.
but it hasn't gone all the way there. This for home sellers, if you're really trying to get your home to sell, make sure it's renovated properly. You don't want to go too crazy on the spending. But houses that are really renovated properly, staged properly, they do sell. And they sell for close to asking, if not asking. Multiple offers. Just went to show a house yesterday in Waldorf. Texted the listing agent, hey, my seller likes this, my buyer likes this property. Hey, we got multiple offers. Deadline was 12 p.m. today. So you still got multiple offers in certain houses, but you just got to price it accurately. But if you overprice your home and you don't do the renovations or don't get it professionally staged, they do tend to sit a lot longer than they were sitting.
So, well, and now as if you're representing the seller and you're in this multiple offer situation, right? What do you see as an advantage to the person who eventually wins? Or if a home buyer's putting in an offer, like, what are you looking for? What are you advising your sellers to look for with that offer?
Well, for me, I don't look at the highest offer as the best offer because you got to think about time to close. So let's say somebody comes with $50,000 more, but they need 60 days to close pending their home being sold. That may not be the best offer. Who knows if their house is going to sell? So you want to think about contingencies and just the financing options. Does this person have a VA loan, FHA loan, conventional loan, a cash buyer? So financing, the fuel contingencies, and just down payment, obviously. Then you definitely don't want to give the house away. You want it at asking, a little over asking, but time to close is very important. And also a strong earnest money deposit speaks to the intent of the buyer. You know, most people come with the 1%, which is good, but it's just all negotiable. But those are the things I look for: time to close, financing, and sometimes I would actually reach out to the lender when I see the pre-approval letter. I reach out to the lender just to kind of get a feel of how certain the lender is that this buyer is going to close. Because the worst thing you want to do is pick an offer and then you got to back out because the buyer couldn't finance it. Then those other two offers that you may have thought about, they've moved on to something else.
So if you call me and I'm like, I don't know, right? It's probably not going to carry a whole lot of weight,
No,
right?
then I'll let my seller know. Well, the lender was not too confident.
Mm,
They think they need a bunch of mortgage programs. Another thing you look for is asking for seller help.
right.
So that kind of doesn't mean they're not qualified. But let's say they come with a low asking price, a long time to close. They're asking for multiple state or local financing programs, and they're asking for seller help. That lifts a red flag like, this person may need a lot to get to the final closing table. Doesn't mean they're not qualified, but then I look at somebody who doesn't need seller help, a lot to
Value.
closing amount.
Yep.
You say, okay, this person is a lot stronger of a buyer. You have a buyer going for a $550,000 home, for instance. They putting $200,000 down. Okay, this is a well qualified buyer. There's no
Right.
way they're not going to close than somebody asking for 10,000 in seller help. So these are things to look for.
So if you get an
Okay,
offer with someone who's already fully underwritten, just contingent upon,
finding the house.
yeah, finding the
That is
house.
that
Yeah.
is it's almost as good as a cash buyer.
Right.
Really, that is almost as good as a cash buyer because underwriting, if you do a lot of transactions, you get to know any extension really comes from the underwriter. Or the underwriter needed this one more thing, or the underwriter didn't like this, oh, the underwriter is waiting for something from the lender. So once it's already there, it's almost like a cash buyer. You get almost 14 or 7 days to close. And it's, that's, I would say, second to the fastest transaction you can get done. So if a buyer comes with that, I tell my seller, you probably want to consider this person.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of doing that. Not every client wants to go ahead and do that, and I understand it's their prerogative. But I've always felt, especially in the market when it was a really heavy seller's market,
Yeah,
right? If we could come out with an offer and saying, "Hey, this client's already been through that process. We've cleared all of those. The underwriter didn't like this. The underwriter wants one more thing. We need this T crossed or this I dotted." We've taken care of all that. We just need a contract. I need title and I need an appraisal,
yeah,
right? I'm a huge fan. I think that puts you into a spot, as you said, sometimes you could accept a lower offer because you're like, that's money in the bank at that point.
exactly. That definitely. I just can remember one of my buyers. We had to go through so much with underwriting. She took so many trips to the bank to get actual physical papers from the bank because the underwriter didn't want things emailed. They wanted things in a specific fashion. So she's missing time from work, the frustration, and then the extensions. Then you get a seller who's telling you, I'm not giving you one more extension. Finally we were able to get it to the finish line, but it's just that if that was already done, man, that would speed up things so much. And on the seller side, the listing side, I've had that with buyers where you think you're going to close and then they tell you, oh, the underwriter needs one more document. This just happened with my closing last month. We had to extend it. And if most of the time when you get an extension, it comes down to underwriting not being done. So to
And
expedite
that's a waterfall effect, right? That cascade
exactly,
effect where, oftentimes that extension, now it's impacting, well, I'm trying to buy my next house and I need the cash from the sale of this home to be able to
exactly,
put on that home. So I've got to get an extension. So it impacts a lot of people when you go
definitely.
through that.
And also sometimes it impacts even title because now they may have to prorate or do the seller may need to pay some extra bills and then the title got to readjust all those things. It just kind of sets a lot of things back. So I really think if somebody got their underwriting done already, pre-underwritten offers are very, very attractive. I say the only thing that beats that is a cash offer,
Cash
which
out,
you
yeah.
don't get too much of.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Pro tip from a listing pro right there. So get yourself, pre-underwritten before you go out shopping. So, all right, we're kind of going to start wrapping this up here. Again, you've been very generous with your time. We've talked about a bunch of different topics here. One thing I want to know, or a couple things I want to know, is what would you say is the number one mistake you see sellers make when it comes to pricing their home, valuing their home, putting it on the market? Like, what's that number one mistake that you encounter?
Number one mistake I would say is just overpricing the home. Overpricing the home really is the number one mistake. And another one I've seen happen now is underpricing the home. You know, some people underprice it way low, hoping for a bid. That market is gone. And so you underprice it and then you don't get that number you wanted. Now you got to bump your price up. Now people are looking at you like, what's going on with this house? But overpricing the house, as I mentioned, that first 14 days is the best time to get your home sold. When you do, as an agent, when you do your open house on the first week of the house coming live and you get a bunch of buyers in there, they create that FOMO. You hear buyers asking you questions and others overhearing that. They want to submit an offer. But if you overprice your home, you kill all that traction that you get with all those showings in that first 2 week time frame. And then when you do drop your price down, people start saying, what's wrong with this house? And then you end up and once you drop your price, buyers are just, even if they really like the home, they want to wait and see how low they're going to go. How low are they going to go? So you end up selling for way less than you would have if you priced it accurately.
And so doing it right up front saves you a lot of money and
A
a lot
lot
of
of money,
time.
a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of time. Honestly, if you price it right up front, you get that really nice open house going for that first weekend. You might get multiple offers and you could possibly get more than if you overprice it and then everybody is waiting for you to start dropping prices.
So what is your opinion on an open house? I know a lot of people kind of think it's gone the way of the dinosaur, right? It's not really a strong marketing opportunity for the listing, but you've mentioned a couple times here. What are your thoughts on the open house?
I still believe in it, but honestly, it's also the way you present the open house. I
Mhm.
think giving it a couple of weeks, hand mailing all the neighbors, because a couple of weeks gives you time to send a hand mail. So if you send the mail out today, it should be there well in advance. Hand mailing the neighbors, calling agents in the area, and then also that first, I would say the open house, people that say it's dying, it's like the dinosaur, they're not completely wrong, but it's towards the month when the house has been on the market for over a month. You do an open house, then it doesn't really bring too many people in there. But that first week, when the house is priced properly, marketed properly, your pictures are good, your video tour is good, and you put up that open house, you would. That just happened to me. I had a house right down here in Upper Marlboro. It was renovated properly. The pictures were great. The staging was excellent. The open house just had so many buyers in there. I actually called the seller to answer a question for the buyer, one of the potential buyers, because I didn't have the answer. And I just told him the house is going to sell very soon. I'll be shocked if we don't get an offer tomorrow. Because buyers, I was in the kitchen with one buyer. They're asking me a question. Somebody else is overhearing it. And that house got multiple offers that very day.
It's awesome. It's also, I cannot tell you how many open houses I've worked where it has just been me and the agent making small talk for 2 hours
Yeah.
because there's no traffic. And I think it comes down to what you just said. You got to be intentional about it. It's no longer the people who do it this way, where they just put some signs out and maybe post it on Facebook, right? Yeah, that has gone the way of the dinosaur. You're not going to get that traction. But if you're intentional about it, like what you just said, you are going to be able to drive foot traffic in there. Then you, as the sales professionals, the real estate experts, going to have more opportunities to speak to people who have a genuine interest in this particular property, right?
Yeah.
And you can determine if it's someone who's qualified. It's a good person to present to your sellers at that point.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, timing for sellers is the biggest thing. That first 2 week is where you want to target, market it right, set up the open house, and also one more thing, make it as short as possible. Maybe a 2 hour time period so you get all the buyers in there at the same time. Don't do an open house for 6 hours where people just trickle in one at a time.
Right.
You want to create FOMO, that fear of missing out. So 2 hour time, 1 hour is too short. So I say 2 hours where all the buyers are in there, they see each other. That drives that FOMO as well.
So I was going to wrap this up by asking you what kind of your secret sauce approach to this is, but I think you've said it multiple times throughout this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you really focus on that 14-day window, right?
Exactly.
So someone comes to you, you price it right, and you market that 14-day window.
That is it. Not to say it won't sell. Like I said, I've sold houses. I sold one in Annapolis that was on the market for 6 months.
Right.
And it all came down to that price I gave the buyer. I'm in the seller, told him 460. He wanted 580, and he just kept coming down and coming down. As soon as he got around 480-ish, we sold. But he was okay with the house being on the market for so long. But if you price it accurately, it can sell. Once it gets past that 30-day, 14 days, people start waiting. Then you start dropping prices. It just drags it on. As a seller, price it properly, stage it accurately, get a professional, a listing agent that can market it for you. And then that first 14-day window is really key. Things after that do sell because the average days of houses on the market here is about 40 to 50 days. So things do stay on the market for that long. But the houses that are priced accurately, still, that's why it's the average. Because a
Right.
lot of houses on the market for 100+ days, a lot more houses are expiring and not selling. But those that drop down that average are those that sell within that first 14 days. They still exist, and it's all about your first impression.
So very good, very good. All right, we're wrapping this up here. Anything else that you want to share? Just kind of whether it's about yourself, whether it's about the market that we're working in here, whether it's advice for someone who's looking to list their home, anything to kind of put a bow on this?
Well, you can reach out to me. That's all I'll have to say.
Yeah.
My website is firstnamelastname.com, RaymondRaffel.com. My phone number will be 240-432-1464. If you just have any questions, right on the website, you can book a calendar, free 1-hour home seller consultation, buyer's consultation, can do it virtually. But as a professional, I'd rather go look at the house. And back to your point, that's what the websites don't get. They
Right.
don't see the house. So I would like to go look at the house and tell you exactly what is worth. And that's all I have for you. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to put all that contact information in the show notes. So, probably down here or over here, depending on where you're looking at this. So, if you're looking, again, this, episode is more dedicated to Charles County, but really, Raymond, you listed everything before, right? Charles County, assuming Calvert County, you
Calvert
cover,
County,
yep,
St. Mary's County,
St.
sold
Mary's,
houses
yep,
there, Prince George's County, and then Washington, D.C. as well.
DC. Yep. So anything, make sure you reach out to him. Raymond, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Learned a lot here. Love hearing, because, I'm a loan officer, right? So typically the listing agent, you are, we're usually going like this,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So, but I said, I love having this conversation, learning more from you, learning to see more what you see on your end as well. So thank you so much for sharing. So, all right, everybody, keep an eye out. We're going to continue on this Calvert County journey here over the next couple of weeks or so. If you're looking to buy or sell, hit Raymond up. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.